get up! Everybody get up! Everybody needs to understand that I'm more than simply a hype man for this rap group. Just like Geico is more than just a company that can save you money. Geico also has fast and friendly claim service, so they can help you when you need it most. And while I do love being a hype man, I also love reading for children's audiobooks. Like Little Bo Peep, she lost the sheep, and she don't know where to find them. Yo!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
You are tuning in to a Goldilocks Productions presentation of the Quantum Path Radio Show with Dennis Anderson. Dennis is a psychic medium, a hypnotist, and spiritual teacher. He has had a gift to perceive the subtle energies from an early age, turning off the gift at the age of 20 to live life, love, and understand human behavior. To have it reawaken again during his late 30s due to a calling that was loud and needed to be answered, Dennis was urged by Spirit to learn more, grow more, and share his gifts that others can benefit by exploring their own unique abilities. Call in now if you would like to speak to Dennis. The call-in number is 713-955-0594. Press 1 so that you can get into the host queue.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another edition of the Quantum Path Radio Show. My name, as always, is Dennis Anderson, and I am looking forward to being able to share with you today just another week kind of going on here. Let's put it that way. Fortunately, some of the energies that have been, I guess, okay, let's call them energies just for the sake of it. But let's put it this way. Yes, some of them have been starting to lift a little bit, which is actually kind of nice for a change because it's been a very tough year, let's put it that way. But this is going to be the way it's going to go for the next little while here. And this is the way of the world as it's, so to speak, okay? Because, and it's like life, and that's like anything. Like your life has ups and downs, the world has its own ups and downs, and that's what this is all about. Like this is, there's always going to be, issues. And let me put it to you this way. We're looking forward to another Mercury retrograde coming up here in December 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, and it's going to last until the 23rd, so just before Christmas. So let's be prepared for that, and just kind of take it easy on yourselves. And but you know what? Work through it. Push through it. Sometimes you can learn a lot of different things about yourself when you're in a bit of a Mercury retrograde. These are times for reflection. These are times to look at, what was going on, what was happening, and these are times now to actually put into place some plans that you want to develop and grow for this new 2018 that is going to be coming up very shortly. And let's put it this way, this year has just flown by. I don't know about the rest of you, but it sure has flown by for me. It's been an incredible, fast-moving year. It just feels like one week just drops off and another one starts, and I can't believe that it's already been a week past since I last spoke to everybody. And that's the amazing thing about all of this is that, time has just been flying by so very quickly. And you can chalk it up to a lot of different things. I know that, let's say, for example, as kids, our parents always may have, or at least my parents did anyway, they used to tell me that, well, that's what happens when you get older. Time starts flying, and especially, when you're a kid, time is pretty slow moving. It's like the summer holidays never seem to end, and Christmas came, and, when you were off for those 2 weeks or whatever it was, they just seem to last for so long. And now it's just like, poof, everything just flies by. So, like I said, some people will call it, let's say, for example, these shifting and changing energies where, let's put it this way, time okay, let's go back to basics here. And time and space basically has no meaning, I guess you could say, in this other dimensional realm that is out there. Okay, because really, like, there is no such thing as time or space. That's all, excuse me, didn't mean to cough in your ears. But in all reality, though, like, spirit on the other side, they don't care if it's 2017, 1917, or 1817 for that matter. To them, it's all relative, and it really makes no difference. And the same thing goes, let's say, for example, like even with us. And as we start to develop and we start to grow and we start to change, there is a very good possibility that we're going to start to pick up on these things, and we're going to start to feel these things. I was thinking earlier, actually, today, about, I guess you could say, the aspect of where we are in our lives. And I was looking back historically in a lot of ways, just because, like, I'm not a history buff, and I do not pretend to be. Although there's a lot of things, let's say, for example, like during the Renaissance and so forth, times that I used to look at and in a lot of ways admire. Let's say, for example, like I would look at, let's say, for example, like the Michelangelos and the Leonardo da Vinci's and so forth. And these were guys who were artists, but yet they were incredible thinkers who brought forth a lot of changes in things, let's say, for example, like art or science or technology. The way we used to look at things, how we created architecture, even for that matter. And let's fast forward, okay, to, let's say, for example, 1900. At that time, yes, there was a few changes, not a whole lot. The Industrial Revolution kind of brought about quite a few different changes, I guess you could say, in life and the world. Heaven knows it helped us to connect. It created things, let's say, for example, like the railway system and things like the telegraph and the Alexander Graham Bell back in the 1870s sort of thing, creating the first telephone and wireless transmission, and from Marconi and so forth. But the thing is that if you look at the time now, let's say even just within the past 20 years, or even since 1990, let's call it that even, like the advances that we have made in science and technology, and I guess you could say in some ways with the human understanding, is very similar in many ways to the Renaissance of old. Like we have grown. We're growing almost so fast that, we don't know how to keep up yet. And that's the thing here. And this is our Renaissance. And that's why I like to look at it as, yes, but back then, yes, they had their issues. Like there was always going to be issues with, let's say, for example, like there was the Black Plague and everything else that was going along there. And all people do not live comfortably or anything like that. But there was a lot of advancement of, I guess you could say, the human species in regards to our culture. But now, same sort of thing is going on. Like we are advancing. We are growing. We are moving forward in such a way where we are now exceeding, I guess you could say, a lot of the things that are going on in our lives. Like science and our minds, and that's the thing here too, is that our minds are developing very quickly and rapidly, to the point where we're not certain where it's going to go. I have noticed myself, even, for example, like over the past, let's call it past year or two, even for that matter, more and more people are opening up or let's call it awakening or whatever you want to call it. Yes, there was a large amount of awakening that did happen back in, well, let's call it the early 2000s, all the way up to 2004, 5, 6, 7. Then it seemed like there was another one up around 2012, 2011, 12, 13. Like it just seemed like once again there was another bloom of people, I guess you could say, exploding once again in their own psychic abilities. And then this year, it just seemed like poof, like there's just another whole bunch of people wanting to grow and develop. And like, and it's an amazing time, especially, let's say, even for myself, too. Like, as a teacher, I love seeing what people can do. And I love seeing it on a person's face when, like, when they actually connect to, let's say, for example, spirit on the other side. And that spirit has, let's say, for example, shown them something. Like when that person, like when the medium has actually connected and they actually almost put their own feet in that spirit's shoes, so to speak, and they provided evidence, it really does bring a warmth to my own heart in a lot of ways. And why is that? Because I know that there is growth that does happen at that point. And by growth, I mean like it's a lot less of looking out of your own eyes. And it's a lot more of being able to perceive something on a grander scale. And I know I'm not talking, let's say, for example, like on the God scale, you know what I mean, like where you just know and see everything. But I am talking on a grander scale where you're actually feeling something of another person or seeing something of a spirit, and actually living almost for a moment within that life. And when you do that, like I said, like your perception changes. All of a sudden, judgment within you actually starts to leave. It starts to move away. It starts to almost not be important to you. Whereas before you would, let's say, for example, look at somebody and say, like, oh, well, they don't have enough money, or they're not like this, or they're, oh, look at the clothes that they're wearing, or something like that. That no longer means anything to you. That no longer actually has any importance. The important part is actually you're connecting to another soul, to another being, and actually seeing from their own eyes, from their own hands, feeling, sensing. And that's why I've been drawn, actually, like I'm actually going to start creating some online, I guess you could say, courses, so that this way we can all connect. And like I said, there is no such, and like I was saying at the beginning here, there is no such thing as time or space here, because there really is not. Time or space is just a construct that we give so that this way we can measure something, because that's all life is. It's just a huge measurement of one thing compared to another. It's all about the comparison. So the thing is that what I'm trying to get at here, though, is these online courses are going to be something where I can hopefully get, a few people together. We can do this online so that this way you don't actually have to travel anywhere. Like I'm out of Toronto, but I do go around to different places. And yes, it is very nice to be able to share something with people, like on a one-to-one, face-to-face sort of thing. But once again, technology, in its beauty in some ways here, has allowed us to be able to connect vast different distances. And that is really is the beauty of this, like of technology. Yes, there are a lot of things out there that, I wish technology could take back, namely the Kardashians sort of thing. And yeah, it's TV, sort of thing. And hopefully, though, that when you yourself, and usually everybody does go through a moment of time where they actually start to feel something. They actually start to understand, I guess you could say, another person on a little bit of a deeper level. It's that empathy that we feel that is within your own hearts when you start to open that chakra up, let's call it that. And when you open up your heart, yeah, like I said, you actually feel the empathy or feel with empathy of another human, of another soul. Now, yes, there are a few people out there that, that can't do that. And, yeah, that's a psychological issue. And there's not much we can do about those, and we're not here to change other people. I'm not here to change you. I'm not here to, I guess you could say, make you do something that you don't want to do, because you have a thing called free will, and you do have your choice. What I am here to do, though, is hopefully, if you're open to it and if you're willing, for you to be able to see differently, to look at things a little differently, and hopefully that's what I can share with you. So, along with that, we do have our first caller. So, if I can get 312, please, Roz, that would be great.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, this is Karen from Chicago.
Hi, Karen from Chicago. How are you today?
Oh, pretty good. My question today is, I'm supposed to have a friend I know I'm going to see him Thursday, but he said that he may come out on Tuesday. Do you see him coming out and visiting on both days, or just one of the days? I'm too embarrassed to call to make sure. I'm sure he'll let me know tomorrow if he does come by. But
well, just as a quick answer, I guess you could say, is that it still feels like he is kind of deciding in regards to that. Now, in regards to the final outcome, I am only getting that he's only going to come out for the one day. And that's what it feels like to me. But I am kind of getting, though, that he does kind of want to spend a little bit of extra time. So it's almost, I don't know if it's a matter if he can, but it's almost like he may actually try to make it like a 2-day, like a one, like not just Thursday, but like a Thursday, Friday, or something like that, or maybe even on another day, or another week, I should say, where he's going to actually try to get 2 days together to share.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, okay.
And that's what it feels like. But like I said, for right now, it does feel like he is kind of in a decision process right now. So, yeah. But that's what it feels like to me anyway. So, okay.
Oh, okay. You're right, because he's waiting for his boss to let him know if he has the day off. He had it on Thursday for sure, but he's trying to get Tuesday off as well. So it's kind of up in the air what the boss says. So that's correct.
Oh, that's probably why, because he's kind of waiting on the last minute phone call to say, like, okay, go ahead.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, thank you very much. I'll let you guys know. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for joining us. Bye-bye. And that's, and you know what, this is kind of the neat thing about doing the type of work that we do. And yeah, there are going to be some very big life questions that people are going to ask you. And so in other words, there's always going to be those moments where somebody's going to come to you and say, like, oh, you know, where am I going to go in my life? Like, what's going to happen? What changes do I need to make to reflect in regards to, you know, where my life path is going? And the thing is that you're always going to get that, you know, like, and that's going to happen, you know, like, that's the big question. And every once in a while, you're always going to get those questions of, is so-and-so going to come and see me on 2 days instead of just the one? And that happens too, and I get calls like that all the time as well, which is actually kind of fun and interesting in some ways. Now, the other thing too, though, is as you develop and grow, you are going to become a little bit more in tune, I guess you could say, with people, with energy, and so forth. There's been numerous times where people have even asked me in regards to business, because that's a big part of, I guess you could say, this type of work too. Like business is very much, I guess you could say, an aspect. Like, okay, chakra-wise, like you're looking at, let's say, for example, the solar plexus chakra, and you're also looking at the sacral chakra. Now, the solar plexus is, let's put it this way, that one's related to logical thinking, analytical, left brain, a little bit of the ego, too, that comes out of that as well. Your own personal identity, the higher, I guess you could say, functioning faculties of our thoughts. That's where those come in. Now, when a person gets nervous or anxious about something, where does it usually affect a person? It usually affects them, well, within the stomach area. And that's what the solar plexus is all about. And the other thing, though, too, is the creative aspect. Okay, and that's where the sacral chakra comes in. Like that's that wonderful little area just a couple inches below the belly button where, it's related to things like not just the sexual organs, but it's lower digestive tract and the lower back. And the thing is that with that, like when you get the creativity of the sacral, the ability to think outside of the box, and the ability to be able to create organization, logical thinking, you put those two together, well, what is the natural outcome? Something for, let's say, for example, somebody within a business, or wanting to, that entrepreneurial sort of spirit, I guess you could say. So I do have people that are very, let's put it this way, very entrepreneurial as clients, and they do ask me, like, sometimes, like, where should they go? Which direction should they take? And that sort of thing. And that's one of the things here that your own psychic development can actually give, or to help you with. It can help you with your own business. A lot of people, like, let's put it this way, like business owners and so forth, like they get into it because they see a void that needs to be filled. And that's usually what ends up happening. Plus, too, there's that feeling of freedom, that sense of being able to be your own boss, and that, and those types of feelings that go along with it. Although sometimes, let's put it this way, sometimes you can actually marry your business too sometimes, where you're spending so much time with it that you don't know which way to turn sometimes. So it's all about balance, let's put it that way. Now, like I said, I do have clients that do talk to me about, let's say, for example, like which way they should go, which direction. Like, is their year going to be okay? And I get all kinds of questions. Like, I get people from, let's say, one-person operations to, I've had people that, like companies, and fairly significant ones too, like where, like that person's like a head of it, of, let's say, for example, like a couple of hundred people in the workforce, and they're producing, let's say, millions of dollars worth of product, and they're kind of wondering, like, okay, well, which direction should I go? And those are the types of questions too. Now, the thing is that, once again, I'm there to provide, to be a resource, to look at different things. I'll feel, let's say, for example, like a direction sometimes, or I will feel sometimes even like I'll get a hint of inspiration with a possible product or something like that. But these are, like I said, these are all things that can be developed within yourself. So as a business owner, you can do that too, and that's the beauty of this. Like you can be the one to develop it, to grow this. And I'm not saying that you're going to be, let's say, for example, the business owner that's going to be, using tarot cards or whatever to, decide the fate of the company. But it will give you, like I said, a better understanding and feeling of the energy of your company. So always use that. You can use that very easily. Use that gut feeling. It's like a human GPS. It will take you in the right direction, on the right path. Half the battle is, though, don't analyze it too much. Because when you start analyzing it, it does create confusion, and it does make you second guess. So always, go with the first gut instinct. Test it, see where it takes it first. Be responsible and be reasonable with it. Always, let's say, for example, let's say you're thinking oh, okay, I'm going to spend, let's say, $100,000 or whatever in developing this product. Now, initially, you may sit there and say, oh, should I or shouldn't I? Should I, everybody is saying, yes, 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 this is the right product, this is the right time, that sort of thing. But maybe your gut is kind of saying, let's just wait. Let's wait a few minutes. Let's wait just so that this way I can kind of see. Or let's wait until next year when things pan out. And that may be your gut feeling on these things. And you have to, it's very important to do that. And when you do, though, you're honoring yourself and you're honoring your soul's ability to be able to look at something. Our own egos like to jump in there and kind of say, okay, let's go forward with this. Let's do this and let's do that. And sometimes that takes us in the wrong direction. And even personally, you always want to answer those questions. Answer those questions to yourself. There's different techniques that you can use too. Some people will use a pendulum. Some people will even turn themselves into a pendulum. And it's very simple to do, actually, for that matter. All you have to do is just stand up straight, with your 2 feet together, and just feel. Let's say, ask yourself a question. And that question can be anything. Oh, is this type of food good for me, or should I stay away from it? And see which way your body wants to get either pulled or pushed forward or backward. If it's getting pulled towards something, then okay, maybe you need to answer that pull. If you're getting pushed away, then maybe that's something that maybe you should delay for a while. It's a very good way. It's basically just using, like I said, just using your own body like a pendulum, and it's a very simple tool and trick to use. And that's really the beauty of this. We can have our own answers at a moment's notice when we need it. Even with actually the other day, I bought basically one of those scratch tickets. I think it was what was it now? What's called a cash for life. At least up here in Canada, that's what it's called anyway. And the thing is that I had bought one about a month previous to that, and I actually won about $20. And I was very grateful and very happy for that. And then shortly after that, like I said, about a month afterwards, I thought, you know what? Let's spend the $4 and get another one just for fun. But what I did though is, as I was looking over them, I just kind of felt, okay, which one just felt right, which one didn't feel right, and I just picked by just kind of going on gut feeling, and I picked out another one. And guess what? I just recently won another $20. which was the beauty of this. Now, is this something that, like it's going to make me a millionaire? No, it may not. But the thing is, is that I am grateful, for the universe of giving me a sign that it is there working with me, that it is there to help me in regards to providing. And that's the thing there, because the universe does want to help you. It does want to give you all of the abilities and all of the things that it needs for the soul to keep growing and for the soul to keep expanding. Like I have some wonderful people that I've connected with over the years, and it's been a real pleasure connecting with all of these people. Some a little older, some a little bit younger. And even with my aura photography, for example, like I've connected to people that were, of all ages. Like I've had people as young as 10 or 11, maybe even younger than that, even for that matter, to connect with me, like when it comes to doing the aura photos. And then I've had people as, like in their 80s and 90s. When it comes to, let's say, for example, readings or their own questions in regards to life and life after death. And it's been wonderful to be able to share myself with everyone in regards to their life paths. And it's a real honor, too, because of the fact that, as somebody is trusting me, as well as other psychics and so forth, and I hope that they'll all look at it in a very similar fashion, where they feel just as honored to be able to connect to another person or to another soul. Because I know I sure do, and I'm very, very grateful for all of that. Because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have done it, I guess, in a lot of ways. Because that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be in service to other people. And it really is an honor, to be able to connect with people or to other souls. Or even if somebody, let's say, for example, wants me to connect to, let's say, a loved one on the other side. And having somebody ask you to be able to do that is like they're putting their trust and their faith in you. And I always try to give a little bit more than what I'm actually getting paid to do. Heaven knows, like, for most people anyway, it's kind of like it's almost an ongoing joke, actually, in some ways, where, like, yes, okay, I charge, let's say, for example, that $60 for a half an hour reading or whatever. But the thing is that I usually end up going over by at least 15 minutes most times. Which, like, I'm always late. Like, I always run over, and that's the sad part about it in some ways. But the thing is that I do believe in giving more than what I'm actually asked for. And I do want to do that in a lot of ways. Because I am honored and I am grateful for, somebody to share myself with them. And speaking of which, I'm actually going to be over at Moonflowers in Stouffville this Thursday doing readings there. So if you are in the area, feel free to drop by. I'll be there from probably about 10 or 11 until 4, at least anyway. And it's always a treat to actually be there. And then later on, December, I'm going to be over in 2 different places. I'm actually going to be over at the Breakthrough Books and what day is that? It's on the 9th, if I'm not mistaken, of December, I'm going to be doing aura photography there. And also I will be doing some circles as well with other people, like where I do the development circles. And like I said, that's part of my joy. That's the thing that I really do love. So, like I said, I am going to be doing some online work as well. So feel free to keep in touch either through my DennisJAnderson.com website. And that's Anderson with an S-E-N. I'll also be, as well, you can reach me through Facebook, and feel free to connect with me on there. I'm always willing to add another friend on there, that's for sure. And that's another way to connect with me as well, too. And I'm always, let's put it this way, I'm always willing to answer questions and stuff like that. Maybe not so much of a psychic nature or whatever, like in regards to, what's my love life going to be, unless it can be just a quick something fast and easy. But if it's something that requires a little bit more time or a little bit more connection, then yes, we will have to arrange for an actual appointment. So, feel free to, like I said, connect with me on that. You can also get a hold of me through my, even through the traditional way of just connecting with me at 647-949-1429, and that's through my home phone, or my business line, I should say. And feel free to, if you are looking for an appointment of some sort, go right ahead and give me a call. Now, the other thing, too, that I actually wanted to, I was actually very much thinking about over the past little while, too, is biology. Why do we do the things that we do? And much of it is actually kind of a chicken versus egg sort of thing, like what came first. Now, some people will say, our connection to another person. Let's say, for example, the whole twin flame, spiritual connection, that sort of thing. Feelings come from. And yes, there is probably some of that in regards to, the energy, I guess you could say, of somebody being within our soul group. But there's also the other aspect, too, of connection physically. Why do we, let's say, for example, having a coupling of two people. Usually that stems from biology in many ways. We're naturally drawn to be in groups. Okay. And that's throughout all of nature. Is to be in some sort of group or be in a herd or whatever. There's very few animals that, let's put it this way, are alone, because they always want to be in a group. Typically, yes, there's always the talk about the lone wolf and so forth, but the thing is, is that there's always usually a pack, elephants, other mammals, it's within our biology, it's within our DNA to actually be with other people. And I actually had a discussion with another psychic actually just this past weekend, because there was talk, I guess you could say, of, let's say, for example, with her, of being comfortable with, being by herself. And I understood that, and I get that, because heaven knows I am okay with that even for myself, too. I am okay with being on my own, being by myself. But I do like to socialize, and I do like to connect with other people. But, yes, there are going to be times or whatever where there's still going to be moments where you feel like you need to connect on a deeper level with somebody. Because, like I said, biologically, that is ingrained in us. And where does that come from? That's all within our DNA, That's all within our, I guess you could say, the hormones that flow through us and that move through us and all that fun stuff. But where does that come from? And that's the tricky question. So I asked that question, I guess you could say, a few times. And every time it was kind of like, okay, like as a soul, we come from something much larger. Okay, like our soul comes from, let's call it an oversoul, where it's, different, I guess you could say, different characters, different factions, different whatever, of souls within that is overseen by this oversoul. And there's the soul group that, that we are with and around. Remember, it's as above, so below. So when we incarnate and we become, human, what ends up happening? Our soul self has to work really, really hard to get to this physical dimension. It is going from a higher plane of existence or a higher dimension, whatever you want to call it. And it's working hard to basically downshift, to slow itself down, so that this way it can enter a developing fetus. Some people will say, like, it enters, let's say, for example, within the 3rd to 6th month. Some say it's at the point of conception. Some say it's, like right at the point of birth. Personally, I like to look at it as probably around the 3rd to 6th month, because that's what it feels, which is right to me. But, once again, that's my own personal opinion on that. So, like I said, it's working hard. It's going into its own, to become physical. And that spark of the divine light or whatever becomes part of the developing fetus. And sometimes that DNA is already encoded with a cultural, environmental, in some ways, connection, because of the fact that, like, let's put it this way, it's, genetics are genetics. And there is going to be some predisposition to certain characteristics that go along with those genetics. But the thing is that where does the soul come in and become affected by that? Or is the soul choosing to go into that part of the, I guess you could say, part of the cultural or group, I guess you could say? And personally, that's what I kind of think in a lot of ways, because there's certain connections that are there that the soul already has lived. And of course, the older souls, the souls that have been around and incarnated numerous times, well, they just pick and choose whichever that they like. Whereas some, it's probably just a matter of, whatever is kind of given to them to an extent, to learn. So, but the thing is that we're here for the experience. And that's the thing here. Like, it's all about the experience of life. But like I said, that's where what came first, the chicken or the egg in some ways. Is it the spiritual energy creating the physical presence? Or is it the physical presence that affects the spiritual energy? Or is it a combination of both? Which is probably more true to fact, more so than anything. So like I said, there's a connection here. Okay, and that's what I've come to realize in many ways, that there's connections to our physical plane, our physical existence, as well as our spiritual existence. There's patterns that start to develop and that start to grow. And when you actually start to see them, you actually start to realize that as hard or as complicated as it sounds, it kind of isn't. You know, like sometimes you can analyze it to death, but it's not really worth sometimes the time to do so, because that's just the way the well-oiled machine wants to work. Then there, of course, you can always get into discussions about things, let's say, for example, like autism. There can be things like that. Like, where does that come from? You know, like, is that because of their own soul? Or is that because of the environmental factor once again? So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a combination of both. I have seen people that are very, whether they can be classified as ADD or ADHD or even on the autistic spectrum, and yet they have this wonderful aspect within themselves that starts to come out. There's a wanting to do more to help elevate humanity one way or the other. And that's the thing there. You know, like, where does it take? Where does it go? You know, like, what comes first? And no matter which way you look at it, everything is there for a reason. So I know that a lot of people say, like, okay, well, you know, like, let's get rid of the mercury out of the I guess you could say the shots that we get when we're kids, so that this way we can avoid, you know, getting autism or anything like that. And that's a very good possibility, but probably a reason why that stuff came out, or why it's developing, why it's happening, why it's even expanding even to this time. Now they're actually saying it's like 1 in 50 have people out in North America seem to have be on this disorder spectrum, I guess you could say. That's quite a few. A lot more than what it was way back in the day. And yeah, there's the chemical issue, but when you kind of think about it, there was probably the need for it to help us elevate beyond that maybe we just didn't have before. Once again, chicken or the egg. So anyway, I have another caller, 863. Please, Roz, if you could.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So what can I do for you today?
Good. Well, I was looking at your Facebook, and you have on there that you like to look into blocks. So I thought, perfect. I have a block. My block is about loving myself and being open to love and receiving love and, you know,
gotcha.
Love in all of its forms. So.
Well, that's always a tricky one, mainly because of the fact that sometimes those blockages really do come from, let's put it this way, it could come from, let's say, very much in the past. You know, let's say, for example, like when we're children, and I don't mean, let's say, it could be as young as, let's say, for example, like when we're babies, all the way up to, like, into our teenage years. Because those are all of our developmental, fundamental, you know, where we create our foundations for the rest of our life. So what I am trying to get from you anyway here is that, yes, it does feel like there's something in the past here that is definitely affected you. Okay, so in other words, it kind of comes down like, I'm actually getting where you've had a couple of relationships in the past that didn't go your way in a lot of ways, because it just seemed like, I don't want to call them abusive relationships, but I do want to say that there was, let's put it this way, you just weren't getting the support that you needed in regards to, I guess you could say, developing and growing within yourself here. Now, being open to receiving is usually a matter of taking a look at, sorry, I'm just kind of like feeling like with my own mind here a little bit. It's almost like there's feeling worthy or deserving, okay? And that's what I'm kind of feeling with you. It's almost like you're kind of almost have this like, oh, I don't deserve, or maybe I'm not worthy of this. Maybe I'm not comfortable with it. And if you are feeling that, let's put it this way, you are very much willing and you are deserving of everything that is coming to you. And sometimes those are those little hurdles that we need to go beyond, okay? So what I am trying to get at those is that there are things around. There are, it's almost as if you're kind of, it's like, it feels like you're almost kind of like, okay, because I'm not deserving, therefore I'm going to push it away a little bit. So it's almost like, you're keeping things at arm's length where it's safe. And sometimes you have to keep trying and go beyond that safety point, and kind of say like, okay, you know what, I'm going to try this again. And yes, maybe I may get hurt again, but the thing is, though, is that I am trying. And that's the thing here. Because sometimes we have to get back up and dust ourselves off to try again. Okay? Because when you do that, and the thing is, too, is that you don't want to hold on to those old emotions, because it's the fear of going through another heartbreak. It's the fear of having somebody, let's say, for example, hurt something within us, like our heart. And when you can go past that fear, it's kind of like it creates a resilience within you. So that this way you look at, let's say, for example, as a relationship, as something that can be something that you can learn from. But you can actually grow from it, even if it doesn't work out. And that's the thing there. Okay? And kind of and try to understand that, like these things within you are there as a learning experience. But sometimes you have to look at, okay, well, why am I afraid? What can I do to let go of that now to move forward? And sometimes you have to kind of like, take a step across that little line in the sand to do that. Okay? Does that kind of make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, you're right. Past relationship, heartbreak. And it's like I so much want to have a love relationship, and it's exactly what you said, that I kind of push it away or hold it. It's like with one arm I'm wanting to draw it near, and the other arm I'm saying, wait, but what if I get hurt again?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So, but you see where the weak point is getting so tied up in the emotion of the fear, where all of a sudden that's the pushing it away, is the fear. You see what I mean? Like, you really want something, but the fear is letting you to sit there and say, like, oh, let's push away with the other arm.
Yeah.
And when you let go of that fear and, like I say, kind of step over that line in the sand, you are now taking a step forward. And yeah, it can be scary, and it can be hard, but sometimes, and maybe it won't work out. You know, and that's the sad part about relationships sometimes. Like, let's put it this way, I was just in a relationship for the past 5-6 years, which just recently ended this year. And I really had a very strong connection to this person. Loved them very deeply. But now I look at it as, you know what, like before I would have pointed a finger and said, no, this is their fault, or it was my fault, or whatever. But it has to go beyond that now. And now I look at things and say, like, you know what, whichever way it went, it's not a big deal. Yes, it didn't work out, even though I was hoping that it would have. But the thing is that I still learned something from it, and I'm now stronger because of this. Because now I'm kind of realizing that, you know what, not everything is always going to work out perfectly, and that's okay. And then you start to grow stronger as a person, you know, and you will see yourself in the mirror as like, wow, you know what? I am stronger. And I can do this. I can go forward. I can move forward. And I am open to receiving all the things that I am deserving of. And you are deserving of everything out there, whether it be love or abundance of money or whatever. You're deserving of all of that. You know, and just kind of realize that it is there. You just have to, you know, open up both arms. or better yet, either that or better yet, tie them behind your back so that this way, you know, you can't push away. That's all. You know what I mean? Because it's the emotion sometimes that overpowers us. So stop holding on to those fear-based emotions and start opening up to the love and the compassion and you know, those types of emotions. And when you do, then you'll be much happier in the process, even if it doesn't work out. Okay?
Even if it doesn't work out, I'm going to hold out for love again in my life. So,
but I do feel
how many a billion people or whatever on the planet, so there's got to be at least one more out there for me. So.
Well, I am pretty certain, though, that I am, let's put it this way, I am getting that there is somebody out there for you. But I do feel that you've got to work past a few of these little things first, and then it's going to happen. Okay, because I just kind of put out a couple of cards here just as we were talking, and let's put it this way: one of them is actually kind of like a very strong love sort of card here. You know, like new connection, new,
nice.
Yeah. Okay.
New is good. I like new.
Okay, it's coming.
Awesome.
Just be patient.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and happy holidays to you.
You too. Okay.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you very much, and everyone, for listening in, and my apologies to caller 650 because of the fact that I couldn't take you, and I do apologize, and feel free to give me a call again next week, though. Aside from that, though, I wish everybody, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, or for all of our American cousins down south. And until then, stay classy. Bye-bye.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.